I want to begin with something that sounds utterly obvious. Light travels, right? You switch on a lamp and the light leaves the bulb, strikes the wall, and you see the wall. Simple light traveled. We've known that for centuries. But here's what I'd like to do today. I'd like to examine that word travels very carefully. Because when you actually sit down and ask, what is traveling? What exactly is moving? You suddenly find yourself inside one of the most beautiful and bizarre stories in all of physics. And I've always found that the things which appear most obvious are usually the ones worth inspecting most closely. So let's begin with what your intuition probably suggests. You likely imagined light as something like a water wave. Toss a stone into a pond and ripples spread outward. The ripples move. That's traveling. Something is in motion. For water waves, the water itself moves, not across the entire pond, but up and down. The wave is a pattern of disturbance moving through a medium. The medium is the water. The pattern travels. The water mostly stays put. Naturally, people in the 1800s said, well, then light must be similar. It's a wave, so it must be waving in some medium. They called that medium the ether, and that was perfectly reasonable. Waves wave in something, don't they? So light waves must wave in something too. Then came the experiment, Michelson and Morley, 1887. They built a beautiful device, an interferometer capable of measuring tiny differences in the speed of light in different directions. If an ether existed and Earth was moving through it, then light traveling along Earth's motion should be slightly slower than light traveling sideways, like rowing upstream versus across a river. They measured with extraordinary precision, using the finest instrument of their time, and they found nothing, no difference whatsoever. That was the first shock. The ether wasn't there. Light wasn't waving in anything. It was waving in nothing. Now that alone should disturb your sleep. What is oscillating if there's no medium? Hold that thought. About 20 years earlier, Maxwell had already provided the answer, though few appreciated it fully at the time. He wrote down 4 equations, Maxwell's equations, and from them showed that electric and magnetic fields can sustain one another. A changing electric field produces a magnetic field. A changing magnetic field produces an electric field. These two fields chase each other through empty space, and they do so at a definite speed, the speed of light. He calculated it purely from electrical and magnetic constants and obtained 300,000 kilometers per second, the known speed of light. He concluded, essentially, that light is an electromagnetic disturbance. Strange already. What oscillates is not matter. What oscillates is the field, an electric field and a magnetic field perpendicular to each other and to the direction of motion racing through space at 300,000 kilometers per s. Nothing material moves forward. The disturbance moves. Field values change. No substance is carried along. Then, in 1905, Einstein appears and says something that sounds at first like a minor cleanup, but is actually a revolution. He declares that the speed of light is the same for all observers, regardless of how fast they're moving. You can stand still. I can ride a rocket at half the speed of light. We both measure the same beam at exactly 299,759,2,458 meters per second. No difference. If I throw a baseball at 90 miles per hour, and you drive toward me at 60 miles per hour, you measure 150. Simple addition. Galileo. That's how ordinary things behave. But light refuses to obey that rule. Run toward it, and it still approaches you at the same speed, always. They're linked. 2 aspects of space-time. When you move, space and time trade into each other in precisely the way required to keep light speed constant. Moving clocks tick slower. Lengths contract. This isn't fantasy. It's measured daily in particle accelerators. Muons created high in the atmosphere should decay before reaching Earth's surface. Classically, they shouldn't make it. Yet they do, because time slows for them. We measure it. Now, from the photon's point of view, if we speak loosely, things become wild. If you could ride alongside a photon, which you can't, but imagine that time would not pass at all. A photon leaves the sun, travels 93 million miles to Earth, taking 8 minutes by our clocks. For the photon, those 8 minutes are zero. Emission and absorption occur instantaneously. The distance is zero from its own perspective. It doesn't experience travel. It experiences nothing. It vanishes here and appears there with no time in between. Extraordinary. But I must be careful. When I say the photon's perspective, I'm being sloppy. Perspective implies an observer. A photon has no mass, and special relativity breaks down. If you try to transform into the frame of something massless, you can't ride along with it. The mathematics forbids it. So I'm extrapolating from what the equations suggest, but don't strictly allow. Physics concerns what the equations say, not the stories we tell about them. Stories help, but they aren't the physics. So we've established that light is an electromagnetic wave. It travels through empty space with nothing material moving. Its speed is constant for all observers, and in a loose sense, no time passes for it. Now we enter the most beautiful and disturbing part. Quantum mechanics. By the early 20th century, something troubled physicists, the photoelectric effect. Shine light on metal and electrons fly out. Fine. But their energy doesn't depend on brightness. It depends on frequency, color. Bright red light ejects nothing. Dim blue light ejects electrons easily. A pure wave picture can't explain that. Brighter waves should deliver more energy. Einstein, again in 1905, proposed that light comes in packets, quantized units. Each packet carries energy proportional to its frequency. E equals h times nu. H is Planck's constant. Nu is frequency. A single packet either has enough energy to eject an electron, or it doesn't. Greater brightness means more packets, not more energy per packet. Those packets are photons. Now, light isn't just a wave, it's particles, discrete lumps. With a sufficiently sensitive detector, very dim source produces click, click, click individual arrivals. Not a continuous stream, separate events. But here's the unsettling part. Send photons one at a time through two slits, the famous double slit experiment. And over time, you build up an interference pattern. Bands where photons land and where they don't, exactly as if waves passed. They're both slits and interfered, but we're sending one photon at a time. There's nothing else to interfere with. Each photon interferes with itself. Place detectors at the slits to determine which path it takes, and the interference disappears. Now it behaves like an ordinary particle, producing two piles. The act of observing destroys the interference. Einstein hated this. He insisted there must be a deeper explanation. God does not play dice, yet the theory works. It predicts experiments with astonishing precision. Quantum electrodynamics is confirmed to 10 decimal places, the most accurately tested theory in physics. So what is light, wave or particle? Neither. It's something for which we lack a proper classical word. Wave and particle are human constructs based on everyday experience. Water waves, billiard balls. Quantum nature isn't obliged to fit our vocabulary. It does its own thing. We have a mathematical framework, probability, amplitudes, complex numbers, wave functions, that gives the probability of finding a photon somewhere. The wave function behaves like a wave. It has wavelength, frequency, and it interferes. But detection always occurs at a definite location, a particle-like event. Large amplitude means high probability. Small amplitude means low probability. Upon detection, the wave function collapses. Now comes perhaps the most mind-bending idea. In quantum electrodynamics, the correct picture of a photon traveling from A to B is this. It takes every possible path, straight, curved, zigzag, wildly indirect paths, even absurd ones looping to Jupiter and back. Each path contributes an arrow, an amplitude. Add them all. Most cancel out because their directions differ randomly. But near the classical straight line path, the path of least time, the arrows align and reinforce. The result is that the photon overwhelmingly behaves as though it traveled in a straight line. This is the path integral formulation. The classical rule that light travels straight isn't fundamental. It emerges because all the wild alternatives cancel. So let's be honest about what we know and don't know. We know something propagates from source to detector at speed c for all observers. We know it has wave properties, frequency, wavelength, interference. We know it has particle properties, discrete arrivals, energy equal to h times frequency. We know photons have zero mass and must travel at light speed in vacuum. We know that proper time is zero. What we do not know is what is really happening between emission and detection. Is the wave real?
The particle? Is there a definite trajectory? These questions may not even be meaningful. The answers depend on the experimental setup. The question, which slit did it really go through?
May have no answer if we don't measure. That may not reflect ignorance. It may reflect reality. This is why I say nobody truly understands quantum mechanics, not because the equations are unclear, they aren't, but because they provide calculations, not stories. You input a question, you get a probability. The probability are corrected. Ask what happens in between and you enter philosophy, and I prefer physics to philosophy. So here's the reality check. Does light travel? Yes. At 300,000 kilometers per s? Yes. Is it a wave? Yes. Particles? Yes. Is matter moving forward? No. Fields oscillate, but no substance is transported. Does time pass for the photon? In the limiting sense, no. Does it follow a straight path? Effectively, yes, because all other paths cancel. A quantum of the electromagnetic field. A photon, wave-like and particle-like, and neither, traveling without a medium, moving at the only speed it can, taking all paths at once, and mostly canceling itself out, arriving as a click. And every time we peel back another layer, the universe seems less like a machine and more like a question, asking itself why it exists at all. Truly, that's what traveling means when nature does it. And I think that's far more fascinating than the simple answer, don't you?